Paramount CEO David Ellison is appealing to Trump's desire to turn CNN into what I believe amounts to state-sponsored propaganda in favor of Trump, if Paramount specifically would be able to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, there's been a lot of news about this, especially in regard to how Netflix is planning to purchase HBO and other entities within that Warner Brothers Discovery umbrella. And there could be a hostile takeover. But Cenk, what are your 2 cents?
So look, there's 2 factors here. One is control over media, and the other is control over politics. Part of the reason that the Ellisons want this control is because they want to also own CNN and to turn that into pro-Israel and pro-Trump propaganda. So will they be able to do that? There's facts in this story that show you which direction it's actually going to go. So listen to what we got here, and then we'll let you know where we think media is heading and if it's relevant to your lives.
Okay, so here's some important context to keep in mind. Warner Brothers Discovery includes several media entities, right? And that includes its film division, which released films like Superman and Sinners this year. The HBO streaming service, which of course Netflix has interest in buying. And also the cable television channels, which includes CNN. Now, David Ellison is a Zionist fanatic who literally just bought CBS and placed Barry Weiss, a Zionist fanatic herself, as the head of the news division. And now she's going to put a pro-Israel anchor as the head of their evening broadcast. We'll get to that in just a minute. But last week, Netflix did win the bidding process for part of Warner Brothers Discovery. Specifically, Netflix wants to buy the film and streaming assets, but not the cable TV assets. Paramount responded with a pretty hostile takeover bid to buy all of Warner Brothers. They don't want like pieces of it, they want the whole enchilada. And that's including the television assets. So here's why that's so important. During a visit to Washington in recent days, Paramount CEO David Ellison offered assurances to the Trump administration or Trump administration officials that if he bought Warner, he'd make sweeping changes to CNN. Trump has told people close to him that he wants new ownership of CNN as well as changes to CNN programming. Gee, I wonder what kind of changes he's looking for. Obviously, he's looking for favorable coverage. Now, meanwhile, Larry Ellison, David Ellison's father, is having his own conversations with the Trump administration. Larry Ellison called the president after the Netflix deal was announced and told him the transaction would hurt competition, which is hilarious that he's pretending to care about competition. And that's according to a White House official and a person familiar with that matter. And the Ellisons have even more help from friends in pretty high places. And if you're wondering who I'm talking about, well, 3 Middle East sovereign wealth funds and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, are among the financial backers of Paramount's bid. Why are we having 3 Middle Eastern countries involved in the hostile takeover of American media companies? But anyway, thus far, Trump has not publicly thrown his support behind Paramount or Netflix. You want to know why? Because he's probably waiting to see who's gonna pleasure him the most in an effort to win this war, right? And sure enough, Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos has also visited the White House on at least one occasion. So only time will tell which entertainment Goliath gets their hands on Warner Brothers Discovery. But for now, let's just, for the sake of discussion, assume that it's going to be Paramount. That Paramount and David Ellison win this bidding war. We can look to CBS News as an example of how CNN could be revamped, right? So obviously it'll be more favorable to Trump. That's what he's demanding. But yesterday it was also reported that Tony Dokoupil, who will basically become the next anchor for CBS Evening News. If you're wondering, wait, I've heard that name, but I don't really remember who that guy is or why I've heard that name before. You might remember that he had a bit of an exchange with author Ta-Nehisi Coates about Gaza, about the West Bank, about the apartheid state of Israel. Let's take a look.
I want to dive into the Israel-Palestine section of the book. It's the largest section of the book. And I have to say, when I read the book, I imagine if I took your name out of it, took away the awards and the acclaim, took the cover off the book, the publishing house goes away, the content of that section would not be out of place in the backpack of an extremist.
I have a very moral compass about this. And again, perhaps it's because of my ancestry. Either apartheid is right or it's wrong.
But if you were to read this book, you would be left wondering, why does any of Israel exist? What a horrific place, committing horrific acts on a daily basis. So I think the question is central and key. If Israel has a right to exist, and if your answer is no, then I guess the question becomes, why do the Palestinians have a right to exist? Why do 20 different Muslim countries have a right to exist?
My answer is that no country in this world establishes its ability to exist through rights. Countries establish their ability to exist through force, as America did. And so I think this question of right to Israel does exist. It's a fact. The question of its right is not a question that I would be faced with any other country.
So again, Dokoupil, the gentleman that you saw in that argument, will now be the new anchor for CBS Evening News.
Yeah, so David Ellison basically said publicly that Barry Weiss's pro-Israel stance led him to wanting to purchase her company, and at a premium. She got much higher valuation than the numbers seem to indicate, and she's the most pro-Israel person in media. She's the one that started cancel culture on college campuses, trying to get professors fired if they criticize Israel accurately. And so now she's the head of CBS, and she picks the most pro-Israel anchor, of course. But if you say these things which are factual, people will tell you, oh no, you shouldn't have a career in media. That's offending people. Okay, well, I'm offended by all the massacres and the slaughters of Israel. All right, we've covered that. So now what they're trying to do here is take over CNN as well.
You know what TYT's always been about? Taking on the corrupt, greedy establishment. For us, it's the corporate media. We've been fighting that fight for over 20 years. For the cell phone industry, it's the same story. A handful of massive corporations ripping you off. That's why we're partnering with Noble Mobile. They're the only wireless company with the same mission as ours, to fight back. Their No Bull plan offers unlimited data for just $50 a month. But here's the best part. For any data you don't use, you get cash back. Real money you can spend however you want. Stop letting your unused data pad the pockets of billionaires. With Noble, you take control over your data. And by switching to Noble, you're directly supporting TYT in our mission of bringing you honest, independent news. So give Noble a try and make the switch today. Scan the QR code on the screen now, or visit go.tyt.com/plan. That's go.tyt.com/plan.
And what they're saying to Trump is, look, you're gonna get a lot of wins if you kill the Netflix deal and let Paramount buy Warner Brothers instead. And Trump can unilaterally do that. If he says, I don't want to approve the merger, his government will not approve the merger. That's not how it's supposed to work. They're actually supposed to see, wait, is it a monopoly or an oligopoly? Is there competitive problems here? But Trump doesn't bother with any of that. He just says, no, if I say it, that's it, you do it. And this isn't about helping the American people and the American markets. This is about helping me. So Paramount brings in his son-in-law. They bring in other friendly countries to Trump, like Qatar. So now he's got Israel on that side, and he has Saudi Arabia and Qatar on that side. They then, say that they're also going to change CNN to help Trump. So, okay, this is how this game is played. So this has nothing to do with our laws and what's going to help you or not help you. What's going to create a free marketplace that says everything to do with how do we please the politician in charge so that we could help Israel do more propaganda in this country. Now, it seems like we're focusing a lot on that one particular part. And by the way, I don't know why Qatar and Saudi Arabia are helping them do this. That's crazy to me, that's mental. But hey, I don't want Israel controlling us. I also don't want Saudi Arabia or Qatar controlling us. I don't want any other country controlling our media, which is obviously what's happening here. We're in an open auction, literally, to do propaganda for Americans. The other countries find that so valuable, they're way overpaying for Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers' value has now doubled because of this bidding war. And that's crazy. So the one good thing out of this is that it is entirely, and Warner Brothers is, in my opinion, has totally incompetent management. They loaded it up with debt, and they're getting rescued here by this frenzy started by Ellison to try to swallow up as much of the media as possible for his political purposes. And so if Warner Brothers is the pile of dung that I think it is, economically, financially, not their actual products, then paying twice as much for that pile of dung is not going to be good business, especially for Paramount, which won't have a real, in my opinion, effective enough competing streaming network to Netflix, and has an old business TV and movies that are absolutely on their deathbed. So it might turn out that this cost them a lot of money to win this war. And yeah, I guess Israel would get more financing from America, but they were gonna get that anyway. But they might be left with a bag of goods that they got overexcited about buying.
Let's hope that's the case. If the deal goes through in Paramount's favor.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.